Fall is a great time to visit amusement parks, especially if you love roller coasters like I do. I just spent 2 days with some very good friends at Cedar Point as part of our roller coaster weekend road trip. We arrived at Cedar Point at 6 p.m. when the park opened. Although Cedar Point was having their HalloWeekends during this time, we weren't really interested in that. All we really cared about was getting night rides on our favorite rides. But since it is HalloWeekends, I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about it and show you some of the cool things that it has to offer. Unlike some parks that I've been to this time of year, Cedar Point's HalloWeekends is really family friendly and it's appropriate for everyone throughout the day. I have been to some where I was kind of concerned about what my children were seeing throughout the day that were kind of gory and frightening. But not here at Cedar Point. It was very cool. I actually found a lot of the decorations humorous and spooky and not at all frightening or gory. That being said, they do have scare zones that open at 8 o'clock. The scare zones are highlighted in red on this map. In the scare zone, there are individuals dressed up in various costumes that like to jump out, scare you, frighten you. But if you don't want to be scared, you can buy one of these lanyards that light up to let the scarers know that you don't want to be scared. For the real scary stuff, Cedar Point has 5 indoor haunted mazes. They're open on Thursday and Friday from 8 p.m. to midnight, on Saturday from 6 p.m. to midnight, and on Sunday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Cedar Point has kid-friendly activities on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. These activities include things like the Boneyard Jamboree, trick-or-treat stations where they give out candy. Then there are these mazes made out of hay bales. Check out Cedar Point's website for all of the other activities they offer, including the live entertainment that they have throughout the day on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now on to the roller coasters and the rides. The spot that I'm standing in right here while I'm getting this footage is pretty close to where the drop's going to be for Siren's Curse, which was announced on September 19th. Siren's Curse is going to be the tallest, fastest, and longest tilt coaster in North America, and it's going to fill this space very well. And if TT2 is ready by 2025, that will essentially give you 2 new coasters for the season. We were disappointed that Steel Vengeance was down for the duration of our stay, but I hear that it was back up and running again Saturday and Sunday, even though I was frustrated that I wasn't able to ride it. If you think about it, the amount of force these structures endure hundreds if not thousands of times per day, day after day, it's amazing that they are not down more often than they are. And great job to Cedar Point for getting Steel Vengeance up and operating quickly. There's just something magical about riding these rides at night. They get faster and more intense. It's a totally different experience than riding them during the day. Our first ride of the evening was on the original Giga Coaster, Millennium Force. This is the only Giga Coaster that I prefer to sit in the back row instead of the front. It's 310 feet tall and goes 93 miles per hour. I prefer to sit on the left side of the train for the great views of Sandusky Bay and Lake Erie as I'm going up the lift hill. After multiple rides during the 2 days, on all the different trains, I have to tell you, the yellow train is simply the best one. And does this flyby next to the queue ever get old?
No.
Next up is Maverick, the Intamin LSM launch coaster that proves you don't have to be a Giga or a Hyper to be a great coaster. This ride is violent. It packs a punch unmatched by any other steel coaster I've ever ridden. It's only 105 feet tall, but that drop after the initial launch off that hill gives you some crazy ejector airtime. And that's not even the fastest launch. The fastest launch is in the tunnel. That's where you get launched out of the tunnel at 70 miles per hour. This ride is great. It's so intense, and for that reason, it's not one that I can marathon. After 3 or 4 in a row, I have to take a break. Magnum XL 200, the original hypercoaster. It all starts here. The modern day coaster wars as we know, where each coaster had to be the biggest and best, started with this coaster right here. It's 205 feet tall, 72 miles per hour, and has some great airtime on the back half. This ride has been known to be a little bit on the rough side. But keep in mind, it's 36 years old now.
What?
But I've ridden this coaster in many seats from front to back, and I can tell you, row 14 is the smoothest ride I've ever had. Row 14 makes this ride re-rideable, and I never would have said that before. The location of the lift hill make the night rides on Magnum incredible. You have Lake Erie in front of you. If the moon is out, you have the light reflecting off the lake. You look over to your right, you see all the lights from the park. It's really spectacular. Gatekeeper is the 170-foot wing coaster that flies over the front entrance of the park. It's a really smooth ride, very relaxing. Sitting on one of the outside seats on a wing coaster is a very unique experience. It's another one of the coasters here that has great scenic views, as the lift hill rises up right next to Lake Erie. And flying through the keyholes is one of my favorite elements on any coaster. Skyhawk is an S&S swing. It was really cool riding this at night, looking straight up into the stars when you hit 125 feet and get that floater airtime right before you swing back down. Power Tower is 240 feet tall. It features 4 towers. 2 towers that blast riders up 240 feet, and 2 towers that drops riders 240 feet. We chose the red side because of the blast off. And let me tell you, at the top you get some really good airtime right before you drop back down. I finally got a chance to ride Gemini on this visit. It had been closed on my previous visits. And I have to say, I was a little bit surprised. It wasn't janky like I thought it would be. It was actually pretty smooth, not rough, and it had some good airtime moments. I think it's a really good family coaster. Next on to Raptor, the B&M Invert. I really love this coaster. This was the first time I got to ride it as well, and the layout is phenomenal. It has 6 inversions, including a 0G roll, and I can't remember another B&M Invert that has a full helix like this one does. When I got off of this ride on Friday, I said it was my favorite B&M Invert, but now I'm going to talk about Rougarou. This is a B&M floorless. It has a really great layout. I mean a good layout, but it's just a little rough on me. If I don't stretch my neck out and hold my head forward, my poor ears take a pounding on the restraints. And for that reason, I don't really like to ride it. I will, I just don't like to. If they would just change the restraints on this roller coaster, I would ride it over and over because the layout is that good. Cedar Creek Mine Ride is the last credit that I needed from Cedar Point. For an older Aero Mine coaster, it had a pretty good ride. I was pleasantly surprised. And I like the layout too, how it goes over the water. And the double helix at the end had some pretty good G-forces for a mine coaster. The other coasters at Cedar Point that I've ridden in the past but not on this visit are Blue Streak, Wild Mouse, and Corkscrew. Cedar Point has a good share of flat rides as well, and we took time to ride a few of them. Troika is a scramble type ride. Then we got on Max Air, a 140-foot tall spinning pendulum. Then Windseeker, a 301-foot tall swing. You get incredible views at the top as you soar around, and the lighting on this ride at night is crazy good. If you feel you need a break from the park, you can take a walk along the boardwalk. This is a pathway that takes you along the coast of Lake Erie and past the Breakers Resort. You can enter and or exit at the gates near Windseeker and Magnum XL200. One thing that we did this weekend that I had never done before was take a ride on the Cedar Point and Lake Erie Railroad. I loved all the skeletons and the props that they used. I really hope they leave this up all year long. It was so cool. The last thing I want to talk about before I tell you what my favorite night ride was at Cedar Point is the food at Cedar Point, and all of the formerly known Cedar Fair properties for that matter. The food is always on point. We chose to eat at Backbeat Q for dinner. It was 11:30 at night and the staff inside were so nice, so friendly, smiling, ready to serve us. It was great. I chose to smoke brisket with macaroni and cheese. It was so good. And now for my favorite night ride at Cedar Point on this visit. It was a really hard decision between Millennium Force and Maverick, but I have to give the edge to Maverick. It is so intense, so violent. When you ride it, when you get off that ride, you feel like you've done something. And it's really cool this time of year because they have the fog machines going under the track, and all the terrain around the track kind of keeps that fog in there and makes it just really spooky and cool. I loved it. It was so cool. You have to experience it at this time of year. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me a comment and let me know what your favorite night ride is at Cedar Point. But most of all, please help me out by subscribing to my channel and clicking on the notification bell. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and share it with others. Once again, thanks for watching and God bless.